This is a spoiler from Dirge of Cerberus. In Dirge of Cerberus, which is a crappy game, but it is part of the Final Fantasy VII universe. In Dirge of Cerberus, what ends up happening is that Hojo... Okay, so you know the character Vincent who comes along later? We find out in Dirge of Cerberus that Vincent is actually a former Turk.
Vincent Valentine reporting for duty, ma'am.
Right, so Vincent, before he was this vampire creature.
He's like Rude or Reno.
Yeah,
and
he
all
was
those guys.
like Rude and Reno, those people. And he was like this good-looking guy who wore a suit and everything. And he falls in love with this lab assistant named Lucrecia, who works, I think, in the lab of Hojo. And Lucrecia is this beautiful woman, terrible voice actor.
Why are you so surprised? Is my face that hideous?
Whatever. But she's supposed to be this beautiful woman. And those two have like a romantic relationship, Vincent and Lucrecia. But then for some reason that I still can't figure out, Lucrecia decides to shack up with Hojo instead of Vincent.
Are you sure this is what you really want?
Am I sure? Am I sure? If this only concerns me, then yes, I am sure.
Chooses Hojo and ends up getting pregnant with a baby of Hojo that is then injected with Genova cells, and she gives birth to the baby, and the baby is Sephiroth.
That is true.
So,
A villain is born.
so he's basically telling these girls that they have the opportunity to do the exact same thing that Lucrecia did to give birth to who knows what kind of, quote, hero characters. But this is a
Exactly.
repeat from what's happened in the past. And it doesn't make any sense because why in the world would Lucrecia shack up with ugly butt Hojo instead of Vincent? Like, it doesn't... that's a question they need to answer. And I hope that's not a spoiler for the third installment, because I don't know how much of like the Dirge story and stuff they're going to tell in the third installment. But those questions need answers too.
This is like the JRPG / Final Fantasy version of the scientific version of the Immaculate Conception.
Well, the sex happened though. There's
Well,
nothing
yes.
immaculate.
Yeah, but like, how do you get the god or...
You're right. There are some parallels.
Yeah, there are
because,
some parallels.
Like, and Sephiroth walking on fire instead of walking on water.
Yeah, into the human like genome, right? So
Right.
it's analogous. It's not the same.
I see what you mean.
And as far as the Hojo thing, like, I mean, maybe you struggle with it, but like, I have seen plenty of this exact thing happen so much in this world. Like,
It's true. It's true.
Spencer's probably like, this happens all the time. What are you
It's
talking
true.
about? Like,
But, like,
you see like some...
Hojo over Vincent? Are you serious?
You literally will see like these like rich actors, male actors
Yeah.
who are horrendous looking with like
Play like the villains and everything.
with like Playboy models, right?
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
It happens all the time.
Like, I acknowledge wealth and power attract beautiful women who are superficial. I don't connect or empathize with those women at all.
Yeah.
I don't think they want you to.
I would rather be poor in a bunker with some guy who I thought was a good person than wealthy and with some like ugly soul.
As a matter of fact, the lesson they're teaching you here is like, what is the ultimate result when that happens?
Right.
It's not a good one.
Yeah.
Right. So like they delivered exactly what they wanted to deliver and you took it exactly the way they wanted you to. So
Yeah.
That's what I would say too, because they want us to hate Hojo.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to do these slimy things. And it's like, why would you do that? It's like,
Yeah.
then that makes us even more angry. We're like,
hate him even more.
I mean, we already hate Hojo.
oh, like we don't like this guy. And now we really
Yeah.
don't like this guy because no one would actually do that. Oh, Hojo's the worst. Like they're doing this on purpose.
Everyone hates Hojo.
Because he's getting
Right.
like with all these like innocent, like
Yeah.
seemingly bystanders or whatever. But yeah, it just makes us feel icky.
Yeah, and in that way, I don't have a problem with the developers going in that direction. And they do answer some questions
Sure.
again, like talking to the girls. But at first, I was just so grossed out of my mind,
It
which
is-
I guess, like to your point, is what they wanted me to feel. But I like especially felt like that, like as a woman.
Yeah.
I'm like, get away from that creepy nast. Like, ew.
Then the writers did their job.
They knew what they were doing.
They got to me because I was really irked.
I just think it's hilarious that he's still in like his white lab coat on the beach.
Yeah, he
And
goes
he's just
everywhere
like,
in his white lab coat. Yeah.
Well, the girls even talk about how sexy his white lab
yeah,
coat
it's
is.
so over the top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, Where was the beach Nazi when that guy tried to get
It
on the
doesn't
beach?
matter.
Like,
Just had to get Tifa in the bathing suit.
Yeah,
all right?
that's
The
true.
bikini.
Like-
I'm probably going to get some heat for this from somebody who watches our podcast, but like Hojo's like going around in the white lab coat literally everywhere. To me is like the modern equivalent of those people who still wear their college ring. Like that big old
Yeah, that
honking
big.
thing wherever they go, and it's like some point of pride, like I got through college, kind of deal. I feel like to him it like projects who he is, like a scientist or whatever, like higher thinker and all that kind of stuff. But also I think it's one of those where like he just never changes. We never see him in anything other than that.
Yeah.
At least I haven't anywhere.
Well,
so
he impregnated Lucrecia somehow. So maybe he wore the lab
He was
coat.
probably wearing it.
he was wearing the lab coat.
Think about that.
It was a miracle of science, okay? Like
so just wrong.
There's nothing sexier than a man in a white coat.
these characters are pretty typecast in their outfits. Like, when have you ever seen Heidegger or Rufus not in those same clothing?
They don't want to make another character model for Hojo.
Yeah,
Right,
because they have
exactly.
them all- they have all
Right,
of
that's
them.
what it is. If there's no reason.
Scarlet always has her giant boobs in the board meeting.
Boobs hanging out.
Now, Scarlet, like, come on. If the first thing through your mind isn't Jessica Rabbit
Sure. Yeah.
when you see Scarlet,
Yeah.
come on.
And Colonel Mustard and like
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
the other things.
no,
It's
there's
fine.
tons of,
It's awesome.
The tropes are everywhere in this game.
And then Reeves is there, and you're like, who's this normal
and he's like
dude?
this normal guy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
But anyway, at this
Yeah.
point in the game, I was like confused that Hojo was the one who showed up on the beach. And then I was all the more curious when he willingly like passes up Aerith and Cloud's party, right? And I was like,
Right.
why in the world is he here? Like, what's his point? And that's what the writers wanted me to think.
They're
So
doing
they
it.
did a good job getting the right result from me at this point. It's when he looks at the robe guys that are standing on the beach that he says that there's going to be a special show that is about to start.
A spectacle, or what did he say?
I think it's a special show.
Maybe, yeah.
That might even star our party, or we might have a role in it or something.
Right.
A very special show is about to start. One starring you, perhaps.
And that's when you sort of start to get an inkling as to what he's planning, but there's definitely nothing in original Final Fantasy VII that gives this part away. So it's Rebirth, again, writing its own completely different story path here. And that's when we take control of Cloud again.
Think back to when Johnny, so this is what like pisses me off about Johnny. Like, again, I love the character and the voice actor. This is one of the things that made me mad about Johnny, where he told them before they left his shack that they had to get beachwear and they couldn't take their weapons with them.
Yep.
Up until this point, even in the scene we were talking about in the previous chapter where they're trying to like hide themselves amongst the infantry and like disguise themselves, yet Barrett has the giant gun arm and Cloud has his giant sword, right? So we suspend disbelief for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But in this chapter, Johnny convinces them to leave their weapons at the shack. It's like,
Except Barrett can't, like, if they let him, go in there. But there's a whole reason they're playing up a gag.
Yeah, which is
the
fun.
weapons thing. It's an homage play.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in just a second. But this is like so small and minor. So like when Hojo talks to Cloud's party and then you take control of Cloud, it's supposed to be in real time. So like there's not supposed to be any cuts. But when you cut from the close-up of Cloud to the far away Cloud, the Hojo party is like 100 feet away in like an instant.
You have to walk up to him. I remember
Yeah,
that.
the continuity is just off. And as a filmmaker and an editor, right, like I notice continuities, but it is hilarious because it's just like, wow, they went fast. They'd be like all the way over there, Not a big deal, whatever.
That's awesome.